It is. We're on a hill. There's a bump. There's another bump. Okay. Good job. Okay, everybody. Today we are doing some tarp maintenance that I talked about during the live stream. And I had this up on an old wooden hay wagon that we'd had a storm and it kind of took it down. But it had a lot of nails, you can see, along the edge. And you know what? It ripped right through on both sides. That side is just destroyed. And this was used the one time. So I picked up some heavy duty tarp tape. And I'm going to go ahead and get this set up so that it can be used for the next project. I'll put a link in the description to this tarp tape. It says to use heat or sunlight to help set it, and I kind of think it might be best to tape it on both sides to help catch these. Here I've got kind of a thin spot, but you know, when they tear, they never tear perfectly, so I'm going to go ahead, tape this one side, flip it, and tape the other side. It is available in different colors to match whatever color tarp you have. So of course I got the silver. I could get white for the other side, but let's see how much this will do. Now I've used duct tape on tarps before, and you know, it's pretty temporary. It doesn't last forever. So hopefully this will do a little bit better. I don't know whether I should take the side piece here or not. I guess just to keep it from tearing more. So I was just testing it to see if I could tear through it with my fingers, and it's too tough for that. It's very flexible and stretchy. But it tore right at this grommet where it was anchored on a nail. So that part kind of stinks. And you know, these tarps are about, I don't know, $80, $90 a piece. They get very costly. We went the route of trying billboard tarps, and they've already seen a good season of wear on a highway sign. So in an emergency, you know, they work okay, but they're just not great for long term. And these tarps could last a little longer, but you know, nails were present. There's not much I can do about that. In general today, I'm just kind of filming some odd jobs around here that I'm trying to work on. We are still in the midst of hay season, and today is the first sunny, dry day we've had in a little while. And we've just been kind of watching the hay field to see if we could get out there to cut the hay today or not. Of course, the taller it is, the longer it takes to dry. So these little projects are a good thing to do this time of day while waiting for that to get done. So hopefully the sun will help set that. It does say you could stretch it a little bit. I didn't want to stretch it too much, but I can see it was puckering a little bit where I did. I think it's kind of better to, instead of stretch the tape, overlap the tarp and have a pucker from that instead. best to leave it set here like this. If I flip it over too soon, it might pull up some moisture from the ground. But see how big this hole is here? That's just terrible. So, you know, here I just did a patch. You can't hardly see even where it was at. So I think it'll do okay. This one's a big tear, and it's right where there's a seam. So I'm gonna patch that sucker right across. Now this is actually the first time I've used this brand of tarp tape. I had another one before. It was terrible. I mean, you can hear this coming off the roll. It's quite sticky. Okay, just little bits. So I'm going to go around and tape that whole other section. Let's see how it does. That's right. So I checked my package on the tape. You can't climb up there too. No way, Jose. It's all covered. 35 feet. So we had just a little bit extra, and we didn't want to waste it. So we saw there was a little wear spot here. So Trey climbed up there and he's going to patch it. Don't let it fold over on itself. Bring it right over here. Just go in a straight. I know. I saw that. Using these on the stack wagon where it had a rough edge or where there was a nail really got it bad. So we're just gonna kind of keep it. You can stick it right to the tarp and then hold it up when you cut it. Yeah. I know. I'm not gonna put you up there. So this pile, we had a pop-up. Okay. Cut. Okay. Hold it up and then cut it. That's right. Good. See? It's dirty Wawa. But this is why we have the tarp. See this? These big clouds come through here. And that one's not any kind of threatening gray. There's just shadows from it being multiple layers. But we came and dumped this off, and then we got a great big rain. So cut that in half, what you've got left there. Or is it all got backing on it? Okay. Cut the good part off and put it on your hole. Thanks. Oh well. He was aiming for the burning barrel. Yeah, oh shoot, here's some more hole. We'll have to buy another roll because I got my other tarp, those sections all taped up, and I doubled them in some spots to make sure it holds. And I did front and back. Both sides of the tarp. Yep. Now cut it from the top of the tape. No. Yep, that way. There you go. Now cut on an angle, don't point it down. so you don't cut through the tarp. Yeah. So the next project we've got going on, we got the cows fed, so they're all over there happy and not mooing at me for food. Trey and I are lining up our pickets. Bethany wants a little garden area. This is what we intended on doing yesterday, and we got this all rototilled up for her. She is going to start a perennial garden here. We thought we'd better put up a gate and a fence to keep the chickens and animals out of it as our barnyard changes, because this used to be the chicken coop, and this area was all fenced out quite large, and it was just a quick pen that we had put up with rolled fencing and T-posts. But we're kind of thinking about changing it a little bit for her to have some vegetable garden area up high, because we've done vegetable gardens in the lower areas and it's just hard to do. So to add a couple rows of vegetables here where there's already rhubarb and asparagus growing, it might be a little easier to contend with. We're just going to use some paint that we already had on hand. George is trying his best to try and get it open. He's not quite understanding about it, but this is just another project that we're working on today. You know, on the farm, as it happens, one job pulls you away from another. Trey got to working on this, and they were really rough painting. Very, very coarse cuts on them. I helped them for a while and it rained, but over a couple of days, we painted both sides of these so that we can make a garden gate. Now, I had forgotten to paint my 2x4 that we're going to use, so I'm going to have to start that. But in the meantime, later that day, Trey came through here and he did some rototilling. We have a rototiller, and if you're interested in that, we actually did a review of it a couple of years ago, and it was a used rototiller that we had picked up on Craigslist. I was able to sell our old rickety one and take that money and turn around and buy a newer, better one that was easier for me to start, because you know those pull starts can be hard with the shoulder. So tell me about your garden here, ma'am. What are we going to plant?
So we're going to put some dahlias and some of these like beetles.
Yes, and those are black-eyed Susans.
Yep, some black-eyed.
And here we have some tiger lilies that we've already divided.
Yep, some tiger lilies we already divided.
Yeah. So I will tell you, what we are doing is a spring bulb and perennial garden for Bethany. Her dad delivers fuel oil, and a lot of times he ends up at farms and old homesteads, and he had been to a place recently that had a beautiful garden planted along the side of a shed, and he sent me a picture of it, which unfortunately I deleted it and I can't share it with you. Miss Bethany immediately got a text offering her a garden of her own. Of course that falls on me.
Yep.
But we have lots of perennials here that haven't been divided in a while. So we have got black-eyed Susans. Yep. And when you dig up a black-eyed Susan, I will show you, the roots start to really bunch up. This is 2 or 3 plants together. Yep. And it just keeps putting off a shoot to another one. If you don't get them divided, they start to choke each other out. And in this case, they were growing outside of my perennial bed that grows next to my garage doors and growing down into the grass. So rather than mow them over or kill them, we're digging them up. Free plants. These cost anywhere from like $3 to maybe $5.95 at a garden center for a single shoot. So what they do is give you one of these in a little like quart size or pint size pot, and you plant it in your garden. So if you know anybody in your neighborhood with perennials, they generally are more than happy to give you them if you go out and go do the digging for it, because it is a lot of work busting through these roots. Now hostas, they put out a beautiful flower. Let me show you that right here. And right now they're kind of going to seed, but all along my house I've had these beautiful purple flowers that attract the bumblebees. It grows into a nice ground cover plant, and they will grow in a shaded area. So on this side of the shed, we don't get much sun. And the hostas are really nice to just kind of fill in that area, because like on this shed, it's an old building up on blocks. And, you know, why not kind of fill it in and make the place look decorative? There's some old lilac trees on the opposite side of this that have shown up over time. But let me show you what Bethany's got going here. Okay, so when you're planting these, if you plant several of them together in the same proximity, then you'll have a nice planting established instead of just planting one and waiting for that to grow up. When you grow these, they get several on a stem. So Bethany had Mommy go through, and I dug a bunch of holes for her. We've already planted the tiger lilies, and what else do we have?
We have some.
The daisies.
Yep, the dark daisies, and also I'm digging up some of these.
So we're going to go over by the daffodil row by the pig pens, and we have a really heavily planted and needs to be divided daffodil section. So we're going to take some of those up for free rather than go buy them, and she will be off to a start for her garden for next year. And then when the temperature of the soil warms up, the car of course will be moved, and she can fence this area in to keep chickens out if she wants to, and keep her brothers out from mowing. Is that right?
Yeah. They might mow with these old and not see them.
Okay, let's go over to that next hole there.
We need to keep them there.
So if you're not familiar, like with the black-eyed Susans, they get really, really root bound, and that's why we're doing this. So Bethany has learned that if she holds them up, she can plant a section. Get those roots down there. Here you go. And Bethany is 5 years old. It is time for a little girl to be learning some of this stuff, right?
Yep.
And what's a good thing to have when you're working outside and doing jobs?
Shovels?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And maybe work clothes?
Yep.
And what do you got on today for your work clothes?
We have this short that it fits me, and it says Dad's helper for me.
That's right. You are Daddy's helper, but you are helping Mom.
Yep.
So that was her big brother's shirt when we bought our farm, and we have held on to it all this time. We've probably had that shirt for probably 7 years.
Yeah, I've had it for 7 years.
Some big guy had that shirt first before you. Pretty neat.
It was Trey.
Yeah, it was Trey.
Yeah.
All right. So to get these planted, we are putting 3 or 4 in one general area. So we just kind of pull them apart, and we're doing a little bit of weeding at the same time. Bethany's kind of planting some of the
Yep, I'm patting these down with my 7-inch
roots in for us, and we don't want to replant the grass. We're going to save this bunch for the next hole. And we're going to get some buckets of water, and we're going to go through here.
Yep.
And you want to make sure that you pack them in so that they don't have air pockets in the soil. And I always dig things with a little bit of a low spot to hold water. We're not in like a dry season, and this will give these plants time to set roots before we get some cold weather.
This one is good. This one is good.
We're actually hoping that we're not going to get an early frost. There's been a lot of talk on the farm shows.
No problem, I can make that big hole.
Here, let Mama help.
Okay.
We need to loosen it up.
Okay.
Okay, how about you do some more? So there's actually been a lot of talk on these farm shows about getting a possible early frost and a short farming season. And like in our area, a lot of the farms that are feeding animals or making hay are getting a second cutting, and it's a very short second cutting with not much tonnage, and I think that's kind of the case everywhere. So if you buy your hay, fill your barn now, because if you're unaware of what's going on around you, you're going to end up with hungry animals, huh?
Yep.
So we want those animals fed for the winter. Okay, here's another bundle. We've got another hole dug. We've got another hole dug here for some more. Good job. Oh, you're going to put that whole clump in together?
Yep.
Okay. Now that's only about 2 bundles together. So we're going to work on this garden a little bit, and we'll kind of show you how things are coming along. I found a door.
Yeah.
You sure did. That's the back door. Okay, come on over
Yeah,
here.
I found the secret door.
Okay, come on over here. We got some more holes.
It's just Bobby and the secret door.
Bethany, if you open it, it's going to pop open. Hit the camera. Okay, come on over here.
It's just Bobby and the secret door.
Yes, it is. Here you go.
Yeah, because I've been go back there. I never knew. Did you get the roots in there?
Pushing them down. This is some old grass stuff from the rhodopsin. We don't want to plant that. Well, organic matter is good for the ground. It'll rot and turn into compost.
It's okay.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, hey, I need to go get with another shovel.
I don't have another shovel for dirt, but you can give him that one. Because our holes are dug, we're kind of okay. Okay. Come right here. Yep. We're going to plant these.
Okay. You hold them.
Yep. I'm going to separate them a little bit.
Mommy, can I sit on your lap?
No, you'll fall me over.
Oh.
Right here. Here you go. Get her in. Come on.
I'm doing that.
Yep. Step on it and pack it down.
Oh, yeah.
Step around the edges. See how much they're wilting already? How much they need a drink of water already?
Yeah, let's go get a drink of water.
Well, we've got a few more to plant here.
Oh, yeah. One. So it's getting hot out.
It is.
Can we make one right here?
We are going to plant something else there.
Yeah.
But you can start to dig the hole.
Okay.
Yes, I see. So what I was saying about the hostas, the nice thing about them, like this one I planted here, and this whole row grows along the side of the building. These lilacs, and this one, I've done a video on this a long time ago. It's called a rebloomer or Josie lilac. It's in bloom right now, and the fall blooms aren't as big, but they're there. So that's just starting. Bethany is going around and pulling seeds off of it, hoping she's going to be able to get some more growing. I don't know how well they'll do. But you can see here we've got all this growing. And a little bit over there, there's a little too much shade or just poor nutrients. We're going to do a divide from whence I stole this one so that we have a match. So I'm going to go grab a divide from the other end of the building. Miss Bethany?
Yes?
We had to take a break because we had to get everything planted, but I gave them all a drink of water for you while you were busy with George.
Oh, good.
So, what do you think about this garden?
I like it.
Do you think your garden's going to grow really well?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, they don't look as wilted as they did. I will tell you, if you're transplanting these black-eyed Susans, they do not like to be out of the dirt for very long. And here's the hosta that I pulled up and planted from the other end. But this is the black-eyed Susans. And these were here when we moved. And of course, they just kind of, grow off and spread. But the seeds just fall off. And they were replanting themselves here. So I dug up the patch that was here. And the flower bed actually ends before that downspout. So all these can get dug up for free and put someplace too, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's getting to be the end of the day. We thought we would get the cows a little more food to make sure that they are well fed. We are having shorter days and it's getting dark here at about, I don't know, maybe 8:15, 8:30. It's pretty well dark by 8:30. They're shivering. You know what that is? They shudder or shiver to get the flies off their backs, Bethany.
Oh. And also it means several.
Yeah.
Yeah. That cow's an angry cow.
Why is he angry?
Oh, I think that's more the thing because the one their tail's tied up.
Look, here's a whole bunch of mice.
Let me see.
Look right there.
Cute. Cute. Hi, little mousey.
Okay.
Let's give them some rotten cheese.
Mmm.
I think they might like it.
I don't have any rotten cheese for them.
Well, maybe try it out, cheese.
And no sign of their mom. They were just sitting there in a loose spot in the hay. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
where's their mom?
She's long gone. She took off when we moved that bale of hay. And she's not going to be back for them, I bet. And it is getting cold. It has been so much colder. Well, I don't think, no, don't do that.
Why not?
No, just leave them. Maybe she'll come back for them and move them. Maybe. Let's get these cows fed, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how well you can see this, but there are lots of deer out there. One great big one right there. There's 3 more on the lane. They always come up out of that low spot beyond the bees. Look at all that honey on those beehives. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's at least 14 deer out there. That's as far as I can zoom. They like to come out and eat anything that's left, and that's where the rye was growing. So there's probably some rye on the ground for them to eat. Of course, there's oak trees right there on the lane too, and they like to come and eat those acorns off the ground. So that is it for our little gardening project for today, and folding up our tarps and getting them put away. I have got this one here that Trey and I patched, and I just about got the hay used out from underneath it, so I can get that put away in the next day or two. Hopefully the weather will start cooperating and we can get back out there and get another load of hay cut and get that other loft in the barn filled up for winter, because it has been slow going. There's been nothing better to do in the meantime than to teach Bethany and spend a little time with her gardening. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.